In the heart of Charleston, South Carolina, stood the majestic old mansion of the Thompson family. Inside, Rose Thompson, a woman of advanced age and great distinction, had lived a life marked by resilience and courage. Rose, known for her indomitable character, had raised her first son, Frank, completely on her own. Frank was born from a relationship that did not prosper, but Rose never let that get her down. She worked tirelessly, facing the judging eyes of society with her head held high. In her eyes there was always a spark of determination, a promise of a better future for her son. The days of hard work and long nights were rewarded when she met Robert Thompson, a successful businessman who was captivated by Rose's courage and resilience. They fell in love and soon after married, forming a family that would soon be expanded with the arrival of 2 more children, Clay and Sophia. Life with Robert was a mixture of happiness and challenges. Rose, despite the comfort that Robert's success provided them, never stopped teaching her children the value of simplicity and honesty. "It is not what we have, but who we are that defines our true wealth," she used to tell them. But fate had its own plans. A tragic car accident took Robert's life, leaving Rose alone once again, this time with 3 children to care for. However, the tragedy only strengthened her resolve. She became a pillar not only for her family, but also for the Charleston community. Her philanthropic efforts and unwavering spirit made her an admired and respected figure. Life in the Thompson mansion continued, marked by Rose's teachings and example. Frank, the eldest, absorbed every lesson, every word from his mother, while Clay and Sophia, although they enjoyed a life of luxury, did not always understand the depths of their mother's sacrifice. "Frank, never forget where we came from," Rose would tell him as they walked through the gardens. "Humility and honesty are our greatest treasures." Clay and Sophia, on the other hand, often got lost in the comforts that their status provided. "Mum, why do we have to be so modest?" Clay would ask, always seeking the approval of his peers. "Because true greatness does not lie in what we possess, but in how we live our lives," Rose would reply, with a firmness that left no room for argument. Years passed, and Rose continued her work, both within the family and in the community. She founded schools, supported clinics, and ensured that those most in need always had a place to turn. Her life was a testament to her belief in the power of good and the importance of living with integrity. Every Sunday, the mansion would fill with laughter and conversation when the family gathered for dinner. Despite the differences and challenges, those moments were sacred. Rose, sitting at the head of the table, would watch with satisfaction at her children, always reminding them of the importance of unity and family love. "Remember, my dears, that family is the most important thing," she would say, raising her glass in a toast. "And although the world outside these walls can be chaotic, here we will always find peace and support." Thus, the Thompson mansion was not only a home, but a refuge. A place where Rose's teachings came to life and where Robert's legacy lived on in every corner. With each lesson and each act of kindness, Rose ensured that her children understood the true meaning of life and the importance of carrying on her legacy with honor and dignity. The rain fell incessantly that autumn night in Charleston, South Carolina. The wind howled through the trees, and the Thompson mansion, majestic and ancient, stood solemnly under the gray sky. Rose Thompson, the matriarch of the family, had passed away on that bleak night, leaving an immense void in the lives of her loved ones and the entire community. The news of her death spread quickly through Charleston. People gathered in small groups, murmuring with sadness and curiosity. How will the inheritance be divided? Some wondered. while others fondly recalled the many charitable works Rose had promoted. The mansion, which was once a beacon of hope and generosity, now seemed shrouded in a cloud of uncertainty. Frank, the eldest son, received the news with deep sadness. Sitting in his modest apartment, he stared at an old photograph of his mother holding him in her arms. She was a warrior to the end, he murmured to himself, feeling a lump in his throat. The voice of the family lawyer, Mr. Armstrong, echoed in his mind, informing him about the reading of the will scheduled for the following day. In contrast, Clay and Sophia reacted very differently. Clay, adjusting his elegant tie, impatiently asked, "What did Mom leave us?" Sophia, with a glint of ambition in her eyes, added, "I hope she was fair. We deserve our share." The next morning, the Thompson mansion, with its imposing columns and manicured gardens, seemed even more solemn under the cloudy sky. Frank arrived first, parking his modest car in the driveway. He took a moment to breathe deeply before getting out of the vehicle. He looked at the mansion with mixed feelings of nostalgia and sadness. "I hope you have found peace," he murmured as he headed for the entrance. Shortly after, Clay arrived in his sports car, its engine roaring, announcing his arrival. He got out of the vehicle with an air of impatience, adjusting the expensive suit he was wearing. "I hope this doesn't take long," he said, glancing at his wristwatch. "I have an important meeting later." Clay had always been obsessed with wealth and status, and the thought of wasting time irritated him deeply. Sophia arrived shortly after, in an equally luxurious car. She got out of the vehicle elegantly, but her eyes revealed a cold ambition. "Clay, do you think Mom left us anything significant?" she asked as she approached her brother. Clay shrugged. "I would hope so. After all, we deserve it." Inside the mansion, the tension was palpable. Frank, already seated in the living room, watched his siblings with a serene but attentive gaze. He knew this meeting would not be easy. Clay and Sophia had always rejected him, considering him an outsider in the family. Clay said in a voice that mixed disdain and formality, "I see you arrived early. Eager to know what touched you?" Frank remained calm. "I am here to honor the memory of our mother," he replied firmly. "I will accept whatever she decided." Sophia, with a sarcastic smile, added, "Always the good Samaritan, right, Frank? Let's see if your kindness gets you anywhere today." The Thompson mansion, imposing and ancient, stood majestically under the grey sky of Charleston. Its white columns and well-kept gardens reflected the grandeur of a bygone era, and its interior, full of history, was now preparing for a crucial moment in the lives of the 3 children of Rose Thompson. The main hall, decorated with antiques and family portraits, exuded an atmosphere of palpable tension. Frank, the eldest son, was already seated on one of the leather sofas, observing every corner of the place with a mixture of nostalgia and sadness. He had arrived early, as he always did, showing the respect and consideration that his mother had instilled in him. Clay and Sophia arrived shortly after, each reflecting their own concern and ambition. Clay, in his expensive suit and impatient expression, and Sophia, in her elegant dress and calculating look. Mr. Armstrong, the family lawyer, entered the room with an air of professionalism and serenity. He was a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair and glasses that gave him an authoritative look. "Good morning, everyone," he began in a firm but calm voice. "I know this is a difficult time for all of you, but we are here to honor the last wishes of your mother, Rose Thompson." Frank nodded in gratitude, while Clay and Sophia exchanged impatient glances. "Let's get to the point, Mr. Armstrong," Clay interrupted, drumming his fingers on the arm of the sofa. "What did our mother leave us?" Mr. Armstrong adjusted his glasses and continued in a more serious tone. "Your mother, a wise and far-sighted woman, left very specific instructions in her will Rose anticipated that there might be conflicts regarding the division of her estate, so she established 2 challenges that must be completed to determine who will inherit her fortune. "Challenges?" Sophia exclaimed, incredulous. "This is ridiculous. We are her children. We should just divide the inheritance." "Exactly," added Clay, shaking his head in disapproval. "It doesn't make sense for us to go through challenges. It's an insult." Frank, trying to remain calm, intervened. "If these are our mother's wishes, we should respect them. She must have had a good reason for this," Mr. Armstrong continued, ignoring the interruptions. "The challenges were designed to test the intelligence and honesty of each of you. Rose believed that only someone with these qualities should inherit her fortune." Clay snorted, crossing his arms. "This is absurd. I am her son. I shouldn't have to prove anything." Sophia, with a look of disdain, added, "And how exactly are these challenges going to work? What do we have to do?" Mr. Armstrong opened an envelope and pulled out a document, reading it aloud. "The first challenge will take place in dark rooms, where each of you must choose from 3 boxes." Clay and Sophia exchanged worried glances, while Frank remained thoughtful. "And the second challenge?" Frank asked, trying to understand the logic behind the tests. "The second challenge will be a labyrinth of mirrors," explained Mr. Armstrong. "You must find the exit in the shortest possible time. These challenges are not only tests of courage, but also of intelligence and decision-making under pressure." Sophia rolled her eyes. "This is a waste of time. But if it's what we have to do to get the inheritance, then let's get it over with." Clay, still outraged, muttered, "I hope this doesn't take long. I have more important things to do." Frank, on the other hand, felt a surge of determination. He knew that these challenges were more than just tests. They were a final lesson from his mother, a chance to prove his worth and honor her legacy. "I'm ready," he said firmly. "Let's begin." Mr. Armstrong nodded, pleased with Frank's response. "Very well, let's prepare for the first challenge. Good luck to all of you." The tension in the room increased as the siblings stood up, ready to face the challenges that would determine the future of Rose's estate. Each knew that by the end of these trials, their lives could change forever. The mansion, with its secrets and memories, seemed to watch in silence as the fate of Rose's legacy unfolded before them. The atmosphere in the Thompson mansion was thick with tension. The rain continued to lash against the windows, a distant echo of the challenge that lay ahead. In the living room, Mr. Armstrong stood with an air of authority, holding a brown envelope. "Now that you're all here," said Mr. Armstrong, "it is time to proceed with the first test that your mother, Rose, has set out in her will." The siblings looked at each other, each with a mixture of anticipation and distrust. Frank maintained his usual calm, while Clay and Sophia could not hide their impatience. "The first test," continued Mr. Armstrong, "will take place in 3 dark rooms. Each of you will enter a different room. Inside each room, there will be 3 boxes. 2 contain poisonous animals, and 1 contains a key. The key will open the door and allow you to leave. Whoever leaves first, without being bitten, will win this test." Clay let out a snort of disdain. "Poisonous animals? This is ridiculous." Sophia, with a look of concern disguised as arrogance, added, "I hope this doesn't take long. I mean, we have more important things to do." Frank, for his part, nodded slowly, reflecting on the lawyer's words. He knew that his mother always had a profound reason behind her decisions. This test would be no exception. Mr. Armstrong led the siblings through long, dark corridors until they reached a rarely used section of the mansion. The walls were covered with ancient tapestries that absorbed every sound, creating a feeling of total isolation. "Each of you will enter one room," explained Mr. Armstrong, pointing to 3 doors lined up in the hallway. "Good luck." Clay was the first to enter, followed by Sophia and, finally, Frank. The darkness was total, and the silence deafening. Frank could hear his own breathing as he fumbled in the darkness, searching for the boxes. "Think, Frank, think," he said to himself. He knew his mother would not do something so cruel without a good reason. The key must lie in something beyond the obvious. Meanwhile, in the next room, Clay moved impatiently. "This is a waste of time," he murmured to himself as he opened one of the boxes without thinking twice. A cry of pain echoed down the hallway as he was bitten by a scorpion. "Damn it, this hurts." Sophia, in her own room, was trembling with fear. "I can't do this," she whispered, but the pressure to win the inheritance made her act. She opened a box, and in an instant she felt the bite of a snake. "Help! I've been bitten." Frank, hearing his siblings' screams, remained calm. "Mom always wanted us to think beyond the obvious," he thought. He approached the door of the room and, with a gentle push, realized that it was not locked. "Of course," he said to himself, "the key is not to be locked into one's own thinking." He left the room and found Mr. Armstrong waiting for him in the hallway. "You did it, Frank," said Mr. Armstrong with a smile of approval. "You have passed the first test." Clay and Sophia, injured, were quickly attended to by the lawyer's assistants. Clay, wincing in pain, glared at Frank. "How did you get out so fast?" Frank, keeping his cool, replied, "The door was never locked. Mum wanted us to think beyond the obvious choices." Sophia, still in shock, muttered, This is crazy. How could we not have realized?" Mr. Armstrong, observing the scene, added, "This was only the first test. Your mother wanted you to learn to see beyond appearances and use your intelligence in high-pressure situations." The siblings, still shocked, knew that the next test would be even more challenging. The mansion, with its secrets and memories, seemed to watch in silence as the fate of Rose's inheritance unfolded. Frank's determination shone brighter than ever, while Clay and Sophia began to understand the depth of the lessons their mother had left them. The first test had revealed not only Frank's intelligence, but also his ability to remain calm under pressure, a true testament to Rose's legacy. Now the 3 siblings prepared to face the next test, knowing that each step brought them closer to the truth and the inheritance they so desired. Mr. Armstrong guided the Thompson siblings to a hidden section of the mansion, an area few had ever seen. The dark wood walls and ancient chandeliers gave the place an almost mystical atmosphere. The dim candlelight flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. In the center of the room, an entrance to the Hall of Mirrors awaited, its threshold seeming to promise both revelations and challenges. "This is the second test," announced Mr. Armstrong, in the same firm voice he used earlier. "The goal is simple. Find your way out of the Hall of Mirrors in the shortest possible time. This test will assess your ability to make decisions under pressure." Clay, with a sly smile, looked at Sophia. "This is a piece of cake," he whispered. "We know how to manipulate this." Sophia nodded, her eyes shining with a cold determination. "We must make sure Frank doesn't win," she said under her breath. "Let's mark the right way and alter some mirrors to confuse him." Frank, oblivious to his siblings' conspiracy, observed the labyrinth with concentration. He knew these tests were not just physical challenges, but also tests of character and critical thinking, just as his mother had taught him. Clay was the first to enter. He walked confidently, discreetly marking the correct path with small scratches on the mirrors. After a few minutes, he found the exit and emerged with a satisfied smile. "Good luck, Sophia," he said, winking at his sister. Sophia entered next, following the marks left by Clay. Halfway through the course, she began to alter the position of some mirrors, creating false paths and dead ends. "This should delay him long enough," she muttered to herself as she completed the test in record time. Finally, it was Frank's turn. He entered the labyrinth with determination, but soon realized that something was not right. These mirrors. Something's not right, he thought aloud. He followed the marks, but more and more often he found himself on paths that led nowhere. Damn it, this makes no sense. Meanwhile, outside the labyrinth, Clay and Sophia watched with satisfied smiles. "He'll never get out," Clay said, laughing. After several unsuccessful attempts, Frank began to feel the weight of the trap. "Someone help me! I'm trapped!" he shouted, frustration evident in his voice. Mr. Armstrong, hearing Frank's cries, alerted the rescue team. "We're going to get him out of there," he said with a worried look. When Frank was finally rescued, he was visibly shaken. "They cheated," he accused, looking directly at Clay and Sophia. "I know they did something." Clay, with a fake smile, replied, "We don't know what you're talking about, Frank. Maybe you're just not as good as you think you are." Sophia, feigning innocence, added, "Yes, Frank. Maybe you should accept that you can't always win." Mr. Armstrong, observing the interaction, knew something was wrong, but decided to wait for the right moment to act. The atmosphere in the Thompson Mansion's meeting room was thick with tension. The siblings, Frank, Clay, and Sophia, sat on the leather sofas, anxiously awaiting the resolution of their mother Rose's inheritance. The soft lights and majestic decor of the room did nothing to ease the palpable anxiety in the air. Mr. Armstrong, the family lawyer, stood before them, organizing the documents needed to read the will. With a solemn and professional air, he prepared to begin. However, before he could start, the door to the room burst open. Michael, a close friend of Rose's, entered with a firm and determined step, carrying a laptop. "Stop right there," he ordered, his voice echoing through the room. Everyone turned, surprised. "Who are you?" asked Mr. Armstrong, visibly disconcerted. "I'm Michael," the man replied, approaching the central table. "Rose asked me to oversee the distribution of her inheritance to make sure it was fair." Clay and Sophia exchanged nervous glances. "What is he doing here?" Clay asked, trying to maintain his composure. "Rose anticipated that you might try something dishonest," Michael continued, ignoring the question. "She installed cameras to monitor the trials and asked me to present the evidence if necessary." With that, he connected the laptop to a projector and began playing a video. The images projected onto the wall clearly showed Clay and Sophia manipulating the hall of mirrors, marking paths, and changing the position of the mirrors to confuse Frank. The voices of the siblings conspiring were unmistakable. "This is ridiculous," Sophia exclaimed, trying to hide her nervousness. "This can't be real." "It's very real," Michael replied firmly. Rose knew that integrity and honesty were crucial in determining who should inherit her fortune. Mr. Armstrong, observing the evidence, turned to the siblings with a stern look. "Rose made it clear in her will that any act of dishonesty would result in immediate disqualification from the right to inheritance." Clay, with a mixture of despair and fury, shouted, "This is unfair. We are her children too." Sophia, her voice trembling, tried to argue. "Frank, please think about it. We are family." Frank, who had remained silent until that moment, slowly rose to his feet. "I have always known that integrity and honesty were the most important values to Mom," he said firmly. "I cannot allow her legacy to be tarnished by dishonesty." Mr. Armstrong nodded and began to read Rose's will. "I, Rose Thompson, declare that my fortune shall be inherited by whichever of my children proves to be honest and pure of heart. If any of my children act dishonestly during the trials, they will be disqualified and will have no right to the inheritance." Frank, with tears in his eyes, turned to his siblings. "It's not just about the money. It's about honoring Mom's memory and living by the values she taught us. Clay and Sophia," Mr. Armstrong continued, "due to your dishonesty in the trials, you are disqualified from the inheritance. Frank, who has demonstrated integrity and honesty, is the sole inheritor of Rose's fortune." The room fell silent. Clay and Sophia, defeat evident on their faces, finally understood the gravity of their actions. Frank, though moved, knew that his responsibility did not end here. He vowed to use the inheritance to continue his mother's legacy, helping the less fortunate and supporting noble causes. "I promise to honor Mom's memory and use this inheritance for good," Frank declared in a clear, firm voice. "I will work to make the world a better place, just like she always wanted." Mr. Armstrong, pleased with the resolution, turned to Michael and nodded in gratitude. "Thank you for your intervention, Michael. Rose would be proud to see that her legacy is in good hands." Michael smiled, looking at Frank. The sun rose slowly over Charleston, South Carolina, bathing the majestic Thompson mansion in soft, golden rays. Since Rose's passing, Frank's life had changed dramatically. Now the sole inheritor of his mother's fortune, he felt a profound responsibility to honor her legacy. Determined to use the inheritance for the greater good, Frank embarked on a mission to transform the community and perpetuate the values his mother had instilled in him: honesty, integrity, and compassion. One of his first initiatives was the founding of several schools in underprivileged areas. Frank firmly believed that education was the key to breaking the cycle of poverty and opening doors to a brighter future. "Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world," he often said, echoing the words his mother had always taught him. The first school, named the Rose Thompson School of Integrity, opened its doors in a neighborhood where educational opportunities were scarce. Frank ensured that the school had the best resources: modern classrooms, well-stocked libraries, and highly qualified teachers. In addition to education, Frank directed part of the inheritance towards community health. He founded several free clinics in both rural and urban areas where access to medical care was limited. "No one should be deprived of basic medical care," he declared at the opening ceremonies. One of the clinics, located in a particularly impoverished area, soon became a beacon of hope for many. With dedicated doctors and nurses, the clinic offered everything from regular checkups to more complex treatments. Frank, on his visits to the clinic, always took the time to talk to the patients, listen to their stories, and ensure they received the best possible care. He didn't stop there. Frank also implemented community support programs, such as vocational training centers and entrepreneurship initiatives. He wanted to ensure that everyone had the opportunity to thrive and build a dignified future. "Honest work and perseverance are fundamental to a meaningful life," he reiterated, remembering Rose's teachings. At one of the training centers, he met Maria, a single mother who had struggled to support her children. Thanks to the training program, Maria was able to acquire accounting skills and landed a stable job. "Thank you, Frank," she said with tears in her eyes. "This opportunity has changed our lives." The positive impact of Frank's projects was soon felt throughout the community. Literacy rates increased, health improved, and many found new paths to self-sufficiency. However, for Frank, these achievements were not just statistics. They were stories of transformed lives, each a testament to his mother's legacy. On one of his visits to the schools, he was greeted by a group of students who had prepared a special presentation in his honor. "Mr. Thompson," said one girl with a radiant smile, "we want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to dream of a better future." Frank, moved, replied, "Don't thank me. This is in honor of my mother, Rose. She was the one who taught me to dream and fight for what is right. Now it is your turn to carry on that legacy." At Sunday dinners, a tradition Rose had established, Frank gathered with his mother's old friends and new allies he had met on his journey. Together they shared stories and reflected on the progress made. "I'm sure Rose would be very proud of what we're doing," said one of her close friends. Frank, looking around the table, felt a deep sense of gratitude. "She guided us by her example, and it is our duty to continue on that path," he replied, his voice full of determination and hope. Weeks passed since Frank was declared the sole heir to Rose's fortune. While he dedicated his time and resources to transforming the community, Clay and Sophia faced a harsh reality. Without the financial support of the inheritance, their lives, which had always been shrouded in luxury, began to crumble. Clay, accustomed to a life of excess and carefree living, found himself overwhelmed with debt. His failed investments and extravagant lifestyle led him to ruin. Sophia, who had relied on her beauty and social connections to maintain her status, also faced difficulties. The doors that had once opened easily for her now closed just as quickly. One rainy afternoon, Clay and Sophia met at a small cafe, far from the critical eyes of their former friends. "I can't believe we're in this situation," Clay murmured, stirring his coffee without actually drinking it. "We need help, Clay," Sophia replied, looking at her brother with eyes full of desperation. "We can't go on like this." After a long pause, Clay nodded. "Let's go see Frank." The next day they showed up at Frank's office, which was located in a modest but well-maintained building in downtown Charleston. Frank received them with a mixture of surprise and caution. "What brings you here?" he asked, inviting them to sit down. Clay, in a less arrogant tone than usual, began, "Frank, we need your help. Things haven't been good for us." Sophia, trying to hold back tears, added, "We've lost almost everything. We don't know where else to turn." Frank observed them in silence for a moment. He could see the desperation on their faces, but he also knew that giving them money would not solve their problems in the long run. "I can help you," he finally said, "but not in the way you expect." Clay frowned. "What do you mean?" "I want you to work in my companies," Frank explained. "I want you to learn the value of honest work and dedication. It won't be easy, but if you're willing to put in the effort, you can rebuild your lives." Sophia, surprised, asked, "Are you offering us jobs?" "Yes," Frank replied firmly. "I want you to see the world from a different perspective and understand what it means to earn something through your own hard work." The first few days were difficult. Clay and Sophia, used to giving orders, not taking them, struggled to adjust to their new roles. Clay was assigned to the logistics department, where he was expected to manage inventory and organize shipments. Sophia, on the other hand, started in the marketing department, working on advertising campaigns. On the first day, Clay arrived late and grumpy. "I can't believe I have to do this," he mumbled as he organized boxes in the warehouse. His colleagues, initially distant, observed his behavior with skepticism. Sophia, though more polite, also showed signs of resistance. "I'm not used to this," she confided to one of her colleagues while designing an advertising poster. As the weeks passed, something began to change. Clay began to see the impact of his work. When he managed to organize a complex shipment, he received sincere praise from his supervisor. "Good work, Clay. You've improved a lot," said the supervisor, making Clay feel a pride he had not experienced before. Sophia also began to find satisfaction in her work. One day, her advertising campaign was a resounding success, increasing sales significantly. "Excellent work, Sophia," her boss congratulated her. "Your ideas are making a big difference." Gradually, Clay and Sophia began to earn the respect of their colleagues. The arrogance and disdain they initially displayed were replaced by a more humble and dedicated attitude. Instead of looking for shortcuts, they began to understand the value of effort and perseverance. One Friday afternoon, Frank invited them to dinner at his house. During the meal, he observed the change in his siblings. "I'm proud of you," he said sincerely. "You have shown that you can overcome your problems and find a new purpose." Clay, with a genuine smile, replied, "Thank you, Frank. You gave us an opportunity we didn't know we needed." Sophia, her eyes shining, added, "We have learned more in these months than in our entire lives. Thank you for not giving up on us." Frank raised his glass. "To Mom," he said, toasting Rose. "She always believed in the power of honest work and dedication. I'm sure she would be proud of us." The dinner continued with laughter and heartfelt conversation. For the first time in a long time, the Thompson siblings felt truly connected, not by material wealth, but by the respect and mutual understanding they had developed. Life at the Thompson mansion had found a new balance. The days of uncertainty and conflict had faded, giving way to an atmosphere of collaboration and respect. Clay and Sophia, after facing their own mistakes and learning the value of honest work, had fully integrated into Frank's businesses. The family, though it had been through many trials, was now united by a common purpose: to honor Rose's legacy. Sunday dinners became a sacred tradition, a chance for the family to come together and share moments of sincerity and joy. The dining room table, long and adorned with fresh flowers from the garden, was the epicenter of laughter and deep conversation. Frank, sitting at the head, looked with satisfaction at his siblings, grateful for the transformation he had seen in them. One evening, as dusk painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, the family once again gathered around the table. Clay, with a calm smile, raised his glass. "To Mom," he said in a firm voice, "for teaching us the true meaning of life and the importance of honesty." Sophia, her eyes bright with emotion, added, "And to Frank, for guiding us by his example and never giving up on us." Frank, touched, raised his glass in response. "To all of us," he said, "for learning and growing together. Mom would be proud to see what we have become." Laughter and toasts filled the room, and for a moment everyone felt closer than ever. It was in these moments of unity and reflection that Rose's legacy was most palpable. It was not just about the material inheritance, but about the values and principles she had instilled in her children. After dinner, as the siblings settled into the living room to continue their conversation, Frank shared an idea that had been on his mind. "I've been thinking about how we can do even more for the community," he began. "I want to create a foundation in Mom's name, something that continues her work and expands its reach." Clay, interested, asked, "What kind of projects do you have in mind?" "We could expand the schools and clinics we've already established," Frank explained. "But we could also offer scholarships for talented students and fund medical research. I want the foundation to be a beacon of hope and opportunity." Sophia nodded enthusiastically. "That's a wonderful idea, Frank. I'm sure Mum would be thrilled." The Rose Thompson Foundation became a reality shortly after. With the combined efforts of Frank, Clay, and Sophia, the foundation began to have a significant impact on the community. New schools and clinics were built, and scholarships enabled many talented young people to achieve their dreams. The foundation also funded professional development programs and training workshops, giving people the tools they needed to build a better future. Through this work, Clay and Sophia found a new passion and purpose. "I never imagined that helping others could be so rewarding," Clay confessed one day while visiting one of the schools funded by the foundation. "This is more than money. It's about changing lives." Sophia, who had organized a fundraising event, echoed her brother's sentiments. "Every little bit counts," she said, as she observed the donors' generosity. "Mom was right to teach us that true wealth is in what we give, not in what we have." Frank, seeing his siblings' dedication and commitment, felt deeply grateful. Rose's vision had not only been preserved, but it had been expanded and strengthened. The foundation, bearing her name, was a living testament to her legacy, proof that her teachings and values lived on. One Sunday evening, after another successful family dinner, Frank lingered alone in the living room, reflecting on all they had accomplished. He looked at a picture of his mother on the wall, her gaze serene and wise, as if she were watching him with approval. "We've come so far, Mom," he murmured. "Thank you for guiding us. I promise to keep going and make you proud." With that promise in his heart, Frank rejoined his siblings, knowing that together they could face any challenge and continue building the future their mother had always dreamed of. The Thompson mansion, now a symbol of unity and growth, was home to a family that had learned the most important lessons in life: integrity, honesty, and love. Thank you for watching this heartwarming story about the Thompson family. Rose Thompson was not only a symbol of resilience and courage, but also a mother who instilled invaluable values in her children. Through trials and adversity, Frank proved his honesty and determination, inheriting his mother's legacy with love and respect. If you found this story moving and meaningful, don't forget to like and share this video with your friends and family. Subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories and heartwarming content. See you in the next video.